Please welcome Sean and Wendy. So we've been on peaks for the last couple days. At the Institute, they put us up in this great house from the 1920s that I guess they now are looking to own and occupy, and it's a wonderful addition to the Institute, and I want to thank them for having us, and I encourage you to look into it. It's pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to see what's happening with them going forward.
We love it. We're having a great time, and like, part of the best part of it is seeing all the little curated details that Scott and Nancy have put in there. It's really a treat. So, I'll ask the question we've been thinking about, and maybe you have too. Is, oops, you're confusing me here.
Sorry.
Okay. Designers from Texas. What are two designers from Texas doing here at the Illustration Institute in Maine? Really? Like, what gives? How did that happen? No, really. That's the question. We're designers. But of course we're kidding. The short answer is, Scott and Nancy. We've been coming here for the past few years and have gotten to know them.
So about 15 years ago, I'm from this area. I went to school here. We started coming to Peaks Island to get out of the summer heat of Texas. It can be fairly oppressive, I imagine. It's very much like February here, where you just need to get out of town. Winter has kind of gotten the best of you. We work for ourselves in this age of Dropbox, laptops, and iPhones. We found it very easily to transition working with clients from a long distance. And so we found that a month out of town was a perfect amount of time to get back feeling refreshed and having been able to reconnect with my family, with my wife, and with myself, to be honest with you. And every year we were there, we'd bump into Scott and Nancy. Scott would be running laps around the island, and we would stop and make chit-chat with him. And,
while we ate ice cream?
Yeah, while we ate ice cream down here. We had some mutual friends, and so thank you, Scott and Nancy, for having us. It's awesome. So, Lewis Carnegie, Wendy Lewis, Sean Carnegie. We are designers. We are married. We do work together. Most people think that might be a recipe for disaster. Most times when we bring it up with people, that's their initial reaction. I've never thought that. We actually do work very well together, and we do make it work. We are true partners in life and in work, so it's really a great solution for us. And what makes that work for us is just a mutual flexibility and respect for the process and the work we do.
So we're used to seeing most designers focused on a discipline or an illustrator known for a specific style. The standard advice is to cultivate a signature style or discipline, do what you love most, into a profitable career. It turns out we love the process of design more than the discipline, more than a style. So we enjoy working with people as much as we do the deliverable. We crave the diversity. I love experiential design, or signage and wayfinding as they call it now, but sometimes those 3 to 6 year projects really burn me out, and so it's really nice to mix it up and break it up with something else. So to give you an idea of what's on our current project list right now, just right now, we're doing stadium wayfinding for the University of Texas at Austin. It's an expansion project. We're doing retail storefront and branding for a store in Austin. We're doing mead or honey wine, labeling and packaging. We've got a couple annual reports that we're working on. We're doing a fiction novel cover and the design and layout of the book. And plus we got a bunch of smaller projects that are going through the shop right now too. So very diverse. We're all over the place. And we're regularly asked, like, how and why do we do what we're doing? And tonight we're going to cover some of the crossroads, the space between the different projects and the disciplines. And most will cover illustration because, we're here at the Illustration Institute. It seems appropriate. And much of what we do is in that space in between. That crossroad where you might wonder, like, how did they get there? How do you work with your spouse? How do you merge personalities and projects? Who works on what? How do you operate a studio and a gallery? How do you consider yourself both a Texan and somebody from Maine? So we'll start with Maine.
So I arrived in Portland as a student in 1990. It was still the Portland School of Art. The campus consisted of the Caldwell Building, Baxter Building, Payson, and I think the administration building down on High Street. I think that's it. It was still a relatively small school. This is the mark Richard Mell had done for the college. It was a good mark. It was an improvement from what they had, but as you can imagine at the time, the name could be perceived as a trade school in Oregon. And did you know that there's even a Portland, Texas? So it was confusing.
There's a lot of Portlands.
Yeah, there's tons of Portlands. And so midway through my junior year, they decided to change it to Maine College of Art, I guess in an attempt to elevate their position on a national level. Obviously, the difference between a city school and a state college, Maine College of Art gave the program credibility and validation. It reflected the academics, and it put them in a more competitive space. It was a great school, and I had a great experience here. The design program was conceptually based, personable. Professors were top-notch and allowed me to explore and take chances. Most of them I'm still in touch with today.
Like
Margo, yeah. So Portland back in the early 90s was a small but still a great city. Just enough distractions to keep me engaged, but not too many that I was never on top of my academics. The early 90s were right in the middle of a downturn, but the city was starting to come up and rebuild, still being affordable and friendly. For entertainment, there was always something happening. Time and Temperature Building, that's still here? Yeah, but never adult time and temperature, come on. Maine Summer Institute, now the Design Inquiry, had its first year. It allowed us face time with some national and international heroes, Wolfgang Weingart, Dorothea Hoffman, Bruno, Chip Kidd, Gritty's, Burton, Street and Company, were all getting their footing. Gino's was still a great place for music. And it wasn't unusual to see people like Warren Miller, the director, and Thomas Mosier around town.
Meanwhile, on the southern end of the United States, there's me, a Texan, studying visual communications at the art school at the State University with 50,000 other students. So, I mean, not just within the art program, but it's a large school. It's a large state school. Interesting fact, I think Richard Mell and one of my instructors both were roommates at Yale College. Yeah. So, I mean, just like Maine, Texas is a very proud place. So I'm naturally very proud to be a Texan. I'm naturally very proud to be a University of Texas grad, hook 'em horns. And, but mostly I'm proud to be from Austin. It's a great city. At that time, Austin was a much smaller hippie town. It gave roots to a very lively creative scene. Richard Linklater was filming, I think, was it Slacker, and you know, right across the street from where I was living, and you know, just a couple years later, he would film Dazed and Confused right down the street. South by Southwest was just getting started. We could buy $10 wristbands and go listen to music all across town. And music is everywhere in Austin, and including at the Austin City Limits set, which was right there on campus. Music is Austin's heartbeat, but the soul of the city is at Barton Springs, which is our watering hole. It's a very large pool with year-round temperatures at 68 degrees. And I'd love to tell you I participated in all these things, but I was mostly a student, and I was very focused on it at the time. And yet at the same time, it was a really crazy time to be graduating from in visual communications or design, because we were at the cusp of new technologies. And half my instruction, or more than, was taught by people who didn't understand or know how to use the computer. And so I left with this really wonky portfolio and no job prospects. It was all concepts and typography. So one of my professors, though, happened to show me this brochure or piece about the Center for Creative Imaging in Camden, Maine. And I was like, I got to go there. So I spent 15 months trying to get in the doors there. There you go.
So the Center for Creative Imaging, it was a beta test facility site. The CEO of John Scully at the time of Apple was working with a guy from Kodak and Adobe and PPD to bring a simple but state-of-art facility test site to prove the viability of digital photography, layout, image, animation software, and continuous tone printers. This is where I met Wendy as a teaching assistant, and it was our responsibility to work with creatives like Richard Avedon, Linda Wyman, April Griman. We began to see aspects of how the future was going to look and how things were starting to overlap. It was a huge head start for me at the time. It allowed me a basic understanding of keyframing, printing techniques, photography, and manipulation. The big things at the time, what was state of the art at the time, was you could morph things, which was a huge deal. If you remember Terminator 2, and you could put drop shadows on things.
People flipped out.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing. And when Photoshop came on one floppy, it was the future, and we all saw it coming. And when John Scully left Apple, the program did its best to keep chugging along, but without that kind of blank check, it was hard to keep the car on the road, and it eventually closed. And that's when we went to Texas.
Yeah, so around that time, they pulled us into a room and said, that we're closing, and I immediately was like, well, I'm done. At that point, I was listening to country music, and I don't even like country music. I was homesick. I wanted to go home. I'd already done a winter. I was done with that. So I said, I'm going to Texas, and Sean and another roommate of mine who's still down there, they came along.
It was a road trip.
Yeah. So we road trip to Austin, got married shortly thereafter, and went straight to work. And something really big in Austin happened around that same time. Pentagram, which had offices in London, Berlin, San Francisco, and New York, suddenly opened up an office in Little Austin. And so when all 25 partners came to town to do a talk with the AIGA, it was like mind-blowing. It was just a real eye-opener and beyond impressive to me anyways, and I decided I really needed to be there, and I fought hard to get into that job. So I worked with a partner, Lowell Williams, for almost 10 years, and everything I learned about design, good design, the process, a hero idea, managing projects, all that started at Pentagram. And Lowell would challenge me to illustrate when I could, a lot. And the skills that I learned from the Center for Creative Imaging were made that possible. This was a poster I did for a benefit for the Austin Museum of Art. And one of the good things about Austin is the weather's always good, so there used to be a run or a race every weekend, and they kind of toned that down because traffic's a nightmare. So, but everything I did started there.
My first initial impressions of Austin was there was all these promotion posters for bands, and they were all hand rendered and screen printed, and they were just hanging everywhere, and I would go and collect them. I was thoroughly impressed with just the grit of people wanting to get their voice in front of people. You had people like Frank Kozik, upper left, Fabulous Freak Brothers, Jim Franklin, Daniel Johnson, Mike Priest, Armadillo World Headquarters. Everyone was trying to out-promote each other, and it was all hand-rendered, and they were a little behind on the computer, so when I first came down there, I was sort of an enigma. As you know, Apple was struggling in 1995. Microsoft was on approximately 95% of all computers. It was trading around $10. The new CEO, Gil Amelio, made the call to license the Apple OS to a small company in Austin called Power Computing, because I was comfortable using the Apple operating system and way ahead in understanding early Adobe products. I was hired employee number 1 at the studio responsible for marketing, design, and advertising for the first clone. So remember, I could do this. It was a big deal. I put drop shadows on things. You guys laugh now, but 25 years ago, it would take a day and a half to do that. Although tough times for Apple, it had a die-hard customer loyalty, second probably to Harley Davidson. People loved working on the Mac. I did. It was simple, well-designed, intuitive, and it worked. We decided the best way to capitalize on that energy and leverage the already engaged customers who were ready to fight back for the Mac. So it was me and this other guy, and we engaged Frank Kozik, an illustrator from Austin. And he was a hero of mine. I came to town, I was like, this guy's doing some cool stuff. We should get him to do this for us. And so we asked people to fight back for the Mac. And now I was 24 at the time. I'm 48 now, so it was half my life ago. Sorry, Margot.
He's apologizing for the type.
For the
I thought it was age.
the font choices.
No.
No. Frank is not known for his typography skills, but it was my first exposure into working with illustrators and trying to find a middle ground where everyone's kind of can be happy. We were building faster, more reliable, cheaper machines and promoting it from the inside out. Screen printed posters, hung on street corners, direct online sales, and over-the-top stunts like 225-foot bungee jumps, Humvees, and Truckosauruses could be counted at Macworld conventions. It lasted about 3 years until Steve Jobs was hired back as CEO, bought Power Computing, hired all the engineers back, and quickly shut down the idea of sharing the Mac operating system.
So, getting back to some type that maybe Margot will appreciate. My time at Pentagram opened the doors to working with like a really impressive list of illustrators, like Dougal Sturmer. And this is a project that we did with him for a local food and wine tasting festival for the Austin Museum of Art. So I got to work with a lot of people that I wouldn't have had access to through those, and I also got to work with partners who had great pull and exposure on national projects like Disney, Coke, and Dole, and just like a lot of really fun stuff. And that's the thing about working for Pentagram. The phone rings, people on all sides want in, budgets are big, pockets are deep, everyone says yes. I'm not going to get into all the work I did while I was at Pentagram. All I can say, it was both ridiculously fun and ridiculously hard. Working for demanding partners and clients meant sometimes you felt like you had two clients, and it was exhausting. This is Lowell Williams, the partner I worked for in the middle, and DJ Stout, who was a partner that joined while I was there. For whatever reason, we were mostly women, and we were some hellraisers. So we called ourselves the Pentagrammers, and just to ruffle the feathers of the partners. And it's just a weird thing that we were all women at the time. It's what worked. It's not the way it is always. It's certainly not the way it is now. But we would do, the way we got through it was practical jokes, so we were practical jokers. So this is from April Fool's Day, in which we changed the vinyl on the door to Pentagram and freaked the partners out, gave them a heart attack, stuff like this all the time. So, and this is where I learned that working with good people is key. Lowell used to say you need 3 things to say yes to a project. It's good people, good pay, and a good idea. He said, 3 is the golden ticket. 2, you can work with 2, but you certainly can't work with 1. And I'm a big fan of I can't work without good people. That's it. I need good people. So after being married for 10 years, we finally had a kid. And we like to say he's our biggest and best project because he is amazing. But by this time, Sean had left and started his own design studio. And I wanted to stay at Pentagram, but I also wanted to be a good mom, and you can't do both. And so I left work and joined Sean at Carnegie. So we came across this last month while organizing in our attic, and it most accurately describes this time. I mean, you can even see the desk that we were working at. It's got everything in there. So much of that time was, what should we do with the baby? I don't know. We were just one foot in front of the other, sleep deprived, just keep going, keep going. And this time was a heavy contrast to my Pentagram experience because, the phone didn't ring, and I had to go after projects, and I had to validate everything, and we could get really scrappy. We made out of the best out of any project that came our way. And this is the point when we really learned to embrace the design process and apply it to everything, everything, and we still do. So, anyway, but I love that.
So Lewis Carnegie, a combination of our last names. He's unavailable for portfolio reviews or interested in bundling the phone and internet. A work of fiction that we use to our advantage. We started this narrative of engaging illustrators to help us tell the story of who Lewis might be. Mark Todd, an illustrator from California, but he came to Austin a lot. He was building his little Xerox zines that he would draw of friends and family that he grew up with from his neighborhood. We became friends, and I convinced him to use Lewis Carnegie as a kind of a launching point. It got into CA, so it helped me validate the endeavor a little bit, and we decided to keep going forward with it. It is a paying gig. We screen print the covers and print the interiors. Books go out in the mail to friends, clients, potential clients. It's great exposure for them and for us. It's a true win-win in our opinion.
And it's fun to do something that has nothing to do with what we do. It's like where-
It's just a silly little thing that kind of keeps us a little engaged. So this is the second book. Scott Nash helped us here. It's one of our favorites. Finding illustrators is always the toughest part of the process. Each book needs to feel identifiable in itself, and we can't repeat a concept or an idea. We do this by allowing the illustrator to drive the narrative. Scott went out. This is
He went all out.
this is 6 dogs telling stories about Lewis. It finishes with a sweet and low eating cat who has some crosswords about Lewis.
But all the dogs love him.
Yeah, all the dogs do love him.
Yeah.
This is the third book. Our son is a birder. His first book was the Audubon bird book, and he has a real photographic memory. He can identify up to 300 birds. He did these drawings for us. We hand colored them. We included it in a little journal that included identification guides,
So we
birding etiquette.
It came with the story,
Where
like
to
his
bird.
story and how he got into birding, but it was supposed to be Lewis. And then there was a second one where you could do your own nature journal.
Yeah. So
And there's all sorts of funny little Lewis Carnegie things in there.
this is the 4th book, which just went out last week. This was a real driving milestone for us. It kind of tips its hats to the Bronze Age of comic books, complete with long format ad copy and letters to the editors, classifieds, outrageous narratives, and an edge of your seat cliffhanger. Illustrator Matt Rebholz did the illustrations for this one. So part of this idea that we needed to follow through with is there's a classified section. I don't know if you remember this comics from the time, but you get like X-ray vision, and, so we actually made these products, and so we generated a store from our website that's going to go live when we get back, and you can actually buy, a whoopee cushion with our logo on it if you wanted it, or X-ray glasses, or a shirt of the month club, or if you needed a book on fonts or how to make thumbnails. Those are all available for you. So the next one.
So now it's a good time to cross over into like our paying work. So we'll switch gears into promotion that we did for illustrator Mark Burkhardt. We met with Mark. I'd worked on him in a couple of projects, and then we got to know him through our local design community. And I think we actually met. You guys might have met him when he came out. He came out to Peaks one year. And so he wanted to change up how he was promoting. At the time, this is again, when would this be? Early 2000? No, something like that. Yeah, we've done quite a few now. But at the time, you would either drop a postcard or pay a big chunk of money to have an ad, and I think it was the Black Book, or the illustration book, something like that. And so he asked us to take that money that he would use for advertising and come up with another way to spend it and promote it. And because of my time at Pentagram, I had this, I would get like 10 of these a day, and most of them went straight into the trash can, but the good ones I kept aside, and I had this nice portfolio of all these really great promos. So we went through all of them, and we found a way to come up with something new that was just for him. And these were these custom illustrated books in which he would draw something for the cover, and then we'd pay it off on the first page, and then the rest would just be a nice presentation of some of his illustrations. And at the time, the first thing he said, I really want to do something that gets me into bigger publications, because Mark was really well known for doing work in our area, but he wanted to get, he said, into the Rolling Stone magazine. And what's really fun, the payoff for us was just within like a couple months of the first book being dropped, he did get into the Rolling Stone. So for us, the payoff is also being able to play with different textures, with different dyes, papers. We go to town with these and have a lot of fun on the cover, and then the rest is like, give us the illustrations, we'll make a story out of it. And usually there is a trifold fold out of some kind, and Mark's just fantastic. He does a lot of these, like they look old, but they have some sort of like, wait, what? So with that.
This is book number 9, is that what it is?
Yeah, we've done 9 books. So, and one of the original things that we really wanted to do was, because this is kind of silly, but we wanted a painting of our cat who had just died. Yeah, she was 21.
And so we were like, what do we do?
Yeah, so I had asked for a painting, and Sean gave the guidance.
This is Da Vinci painting from DC that he kind of borrowed from.
And this cat was such a princess, a grumpy bitch. So it was real perfectly fitting.
So this is another client of ours, OK Paper, Olmsted Kirk Paper. They're a 100-years-old paper supplier. They've always been a part of the Austin design community. I don't know for how long, but forever. They start their meetings with a rally cry about how they're the friendliest people in the business, and so we figured that would be a great starting point. This is an illustration that we did for their website.
Yeah, the paper culture at the time was old school, and they weren't really representing themselves so well online, and so they asked us to come up with something that they could do, and they wanted to make sure it had that paper nod to paper. So we came up with a navigation at the top that actually can change out with paper specs. So they can change it out. They do change it. Sometimes it's once a year, sometimes it's 4 times a year. And we feature different lines of paper at the top, so it's really quick and easy. And all of it was inspired by this illustration that we found on a matchbook, and that's Oki. That was like an actual one of their characters from the 1950s. And so Oki got an upgrade, and he became the O and K character that you see everywhere. That's Oki. And we built that into a whole illustrated library that we use throughout the site. This real friendly thing. And it started with just the website, but we've been working with them for so long that it just keeps kind of snowballing into something else. I think we've been working with them now for 13 plus years. So this is the original OK Mark. It's been around for 100 years, and they were crossing over into they have like a family of companies, so OK Paper wasn't necessarily the right solution, and they also had all these other companies were doing completely different logos. So we came back and did a custom, just something that gave nod to the historic thing, but gave it a little bit more clarity. But the really fun part of this name, or for this group, is that they have OK in their name, and I think a lot of people would be like, oh, this is a little too much.
How do you be great if you're just okay?
You're just okay, yeah. And in fact, they've had, every once in a while, they have an employee who's like, listen, you guys just need to change the name. And they're like, no, you need to get on board. Okay is great. And so we just have a lot of fun with it. You guys may or may not have heard the all right, the Matthew McConaughey thing. It's obviously very well known, very Austin, and so the all right, okay. We just do a whole lot of stories using the phrase okay, and all of our correspondence with the marketing team is like, okay, what do you think of this? Okay. It's a lot of okay. And it's just a playful brand that we get to, starting with this is one of the first illustrations we did for a t-shirt with them on the right. To something we just produced last year in a collaboration with French Paper for their 150th and OK Paper's 113th. So, and we also get to incorporate it into other brands, like when this is for Accent Paper and they use their A and then playing like OK. So this was a daily planner that we did for them. But one of the annual things that we do is this calendar. We do it every year, and it's a lot of fun, and always plays again with different papers, different textures, and okay.
So one of our long-standing nonprofit partners is the Austin Bat Cave. They work with students developing creative writing skills. All their programming is free. In the past 10 years in our gallery, we've hosted readings, meetings, auctions, workshops, as well as managed design projects, including a rebranding and 9 printed anthologies. I think you guys have a telling room, is
Yeah.
that same idea? Dave Eggers' 8 through 26 idea?
So this is Austin's version.
This is Austin's version of that. So the name Austin Bat Cave derived from the Austin bat scene, but also because the initials are ABC. Identity was updated from a dainty bat and old pen quill to be more bold and kid-friendly. Since we've started working with them, we've done 9 anthologies every year. At the end of the year, we compile all the kids' works, all their drawings, and we put out an anthology, and we give that to donors and the kids just to reward them for work well done. This cover was done by an illustrator from Maine College of Art, actually. And so this is one illustration. When I saw this, I just kind of fell in love with it. It's really interesting to understand where kind of great illustration kind of come from anywhere. Love smells like goodness. It feels warm. It looks like mom.
It sounds like mom.
It sounds like mom. It looks like a big hug. It tastes like spaghetti.
I mean,
Very nice.
and there's so many of those
Yeah,
every year.
there's so many great ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Kids are just awesome at illustration. The 8th book was printed with a grant from Warby Parker. The title was Make Your Mark. The exposed chipboard cover gave students a place to customize their book covers. But it also allowed Batcave to invite illustrators to come in and create custom covers that were auctioned off for future endeavors. These are a few of those covers. The 10th anthology, Welcome to My Planet, allows us to experiment with alternative printing techniques. The latest one from last year, they hooked up with the Texas Tribune and they focused on writing editorial columns. It was very newspaper-like. It was only one color, incorporated stickers, and we explored ideas of type.
And through our work with ABC or Austin Bat Cave, we were close to some of their supporters, including the owners of Home Slice Pizza. And if you've been to Austin, like Home Slice Pizza is our pizza. And they're really good. They're always voted best in town. And they asked us to help out with their annual event, the Carnival of Pizza. This is a charity-driven event that includes booths with entertainment, music, fortune tellers, dancers, mustache painting, pizza box folding, amateur dough toasting, pizza eating contest, and a hands-on eggplant sub in which the person who keeps their hand on the eggplant sub the longest gets a year of pizza.
I think last year or the year before, it went a week.
Nuh-uh.
Really?
I don't think I knew that. That's crazy.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, so our God, that blows my mind. For a year of pizza. Anyway, so this year, the year that we did it, we did the Tattooed Wonder, in which we came up with all these tattoos that were relevant to pizza. If you've ever seen that dog with the pizza in his mouth, that actually from the Home Slice Pizza. There's an actual photo of that. So we got once we did this, like we just couldn't stop. We kept going, and Sean would be like, "And well, wait, what if we did tattoos? Like you can give away." And so we made tattoos of all these, like the giveaway tattoos. And what if we did like a tattooed baby booth where you can have a baby that you tattoo, and it'll be a social media promo, and
So
then
you bring your baby and you put tattoos on your baby and you put it out there, and the person who got the most votes would win the tattoo.
the
baby.
most likes.
And you'd win babysitting for a year and a free tattoo when you turned 18.
Can you believe it? And they were like, yeah, everything. I mean, Sean would show the stuff up and they'd be like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, they just went all out. Like, we customized this crazy baby booth with like stock photos of babies and the tattoos. It was really funny. So from that, Home Slice is famous on South Congress, which is one of our big tourist streets in Austin. And they were planning on opening up a new place in North Austin. And they have a really family, fun environment, a lot of playful icons that you can kind of pick up on just in having this here. But so they asked, because we had this good relationship with them, they asked if we could
Help figure out the concept for the new store.
Yeah, for the new store. So.
The one on South Congress is very kind of Coney Island, and that's great, but they wanted the new store to be kind of everything the old store wasn't. So We really kind of looked to New York pre-Giuliani, right around the bankruptcy. We used that kind of as a line in the sand where it was,
Yeah,
you know,
family
crime
fun.
and I don't know if you guys remember this, but crime and property are all-time highs. Like, it would not be unusual to leave your house and be mugged. It was essentially a war zone. The city was starting over in a lot of ways, but like a phoenix rising from the ashes. It was dirty, it was imperfect, it was hungry, it was unexpected and unpredictable. It was identifiably New York. Disco, hip-hop, punk, beatboxing, DJs, street parties, graffiti, and breakdancing. Provided us with an energy we quickly identified with and felt had come full circle. Much of the things, techniques, tone, and voice were things that were kind of back in vogue. So to extend the brand, without being super kind of off the mark, we started doing things like this.
Wait. This is the Queen of Pies. So this
Queen
is
of
their,
Pies.
yeah, this is their like mark that this, and so we put the David Bowie, you know.
So it's identifiably North Loop and not South Congress. So Superfly became Super Pie. You know, it's a dough life. Things like Xeroxing, wheat paste, stencil, hand lettering, stickers, screen printing, halftones, found images, misprints, overprinting, letraset, street photography, an old-fashioned hustle resurrected by a culture that pushed hard to get your voice and art in front of everybody. So it was cheap, it was fun and available, working directly on a Xerox machine. We knocked out hundreds of these
Seriously.
menu covers. Instead of hey ho, let's go, it's hey ho, pie dough. It's low rent typography, overprinting. We worked on the exterior sign this year. I forget what those things are called, but they're like little sparklets.
Yeah. Yeah, we created the signage for the store. I mean, even all of these different styles. It was and this is the owner here with the Lucha Librador. This is on the website that we're about to put up. There's Sean and I in the background. There's our son and one of his best friends in the cow suit. But this is the kind of playful, like they're just
Yeah, they're just
off the
kind of
wall.
going for it. So neon wheat paste inside the building. Who doesn't like the Fat Boys? So we wanted to create a space that had a timeless Italian 1950 restaurant feel, but felt as if it was abandoned at some point, and kids just started to use it as a home base. A crossover of rules versus no rules. Nothing was precious, but everything was important. We engaged local artists to fill the walls with murals. We also found these great Goodwill paintings, and we asked people to kind of go on top of them, and we created little galleries and little murals. Homesites has consistently voted the best pizza in town, but a few months ago, it was voted best restaurant in town. So that was a huge feather in our cap, and we thought that was super cool.
That sounds nice. This is another project that a nonprofit project that we have been doing. This is our second one that we did. It's for Texas Appleseed, which is a group that works on regional
Social
issues
justice.
and social justice for Texans to try and level the playing field. And so most of their events and fundraising, and they do work with a lot of lawyers and politicians, are very stuffy. And so they wanted to expose it to a wider audience, and they asked us to get involved and help create an event that could bring in not just artists and designers, but people, just bring in a wider range. And so we concepted the name, it's I Heart Justice, and we selected the artist, or we came up with a formula, and it's kind of one of those things that we're constantly tweaking. So the first year we did 20 different artists, and we did a first call for entry, and we also selected 10 artists, so it was a nice mix. We wanted it to be not just like all well-known, we wanted it to be like some young students and a big mix of different types of artists, of designers, all across the spectrum. So,
But it happens every other year when the House is in session, where the event happens blocks from the Capitol, so we try to kind of get the lobbyists and the lawyers in and kind of do a mix and mingle.
it's a pretty colorful event. And the posters are fantastic.
So these are all oversized, 2 by 3 feet, all screen printed.
Bruce Lee Webb in the middle.
Yeah, it's Bruce Lee. Webb.
And yeah, they are a wide mix of well-known designers, unknown people. Miss James Victoria on the right, Sophie Roach in the middle, So yeah, Mike Reddy in the middle there, just a great range of designers and artists, and this is the event itself. And it's right off of the Congress Street. It's in a beautiful old historic building, and it is like a pride. It's a lot of fun to work with these really special designers, artists, and all across the board. And last time I think we had an art director, and it was really interesting to see how people would produce it, or how they would produce the art, because we were silk screening, and we're working with Industry Printing, which is one of the best silk screeners in Austin. So that's that event. And that brings us to us in our space.
This is our gallery. It's on East Austin. We have just the two of us there, so the space was a real opportunity to be kind of a blank canvas, and for us to say yes to things that wouldn't normally have the chance to be seen regardless of budget or schedule. We did a bunch of crazy things. We would have parties on a regular basis. South by Southwest, we were blocks from the convention center, so people would be in town and want to play, so we always had A-list musicians in the backyard. The weather was starting to get nice, so it was a real great recipe for a good time. I'm an original member of AIGA Austin, and we started Design Ranch back in 1999. It's a hands-on, analog, no-tech retreat in the Hill Country, where we bring people in and we teach things like pinhole photography, screen printing,
Whittling a spoon.
stitching, whittling a spoon,
Yeah. We have great bands every night. It's
tin
great.
types.
Yeah.
And so it's over 20 years now. And I think the next one's next April. If you can make it out there, it's well worth your while. We host the Vinyl Listening Lounge, and
But this kind of set the stage to what we could do and the kind of things.
in our own space,
Yeah, exactly. So, Aaron Draplin.
Draplin came to town
Yeah.
for the first time. We had him there. It also allowed us to explore ideas that may or may not be fully realized. I was shooting pack film photography in our neighborhood, and so me and a handful of friends were able to shoot, print, and have a show during East Austin Studio Tour, which is a East neighborhood studio where about 300 studios open their doors.
Crazy man.
People walk around for 2 weekends, and you just see a lot of great art.
But we also have a lot of just like backyard cookouts, pie socials, hanging out with friends.
Have friends over,
Yeah,
drink beer.
yeah.
It's
This is an example of some of the products. I mean, there's so many. Like, we realized that over the past 10 years, we've had more than 100. So more music, art openings. Keisha came and hung out during South by Southwest. A lot of local artists who may or may not have a space to show their work. Some of them are well known, some of them just never showed before. They might show in our place. Local musicians like Darden Smith. Just a really great, like, comfortable backyard experience.
I don't know if you know John Pearson, the Criterion, the Throwback. We do a bunch of film shoots, film set type things.
Photography sets.
Yeah, YouTube green thing. It's really whatever we need it to be.
People call, we are like, yes, you can do that. So this is, AIGA, we do lectures for Under the Radar there, our own series for sustainability design, and then local pep rally. Like this is, or a political rally. This is Wendy Davis. We did a live silk screening event with musicians and talks in our backyard, and we hosted that with DJ Stout there and with Industry Print, and we selected about 10 different artists and had them do a concept with the idea of women.
These not words.
These not words. Yes, that was for her.
Yeah.
These not words. So, and all this is happening in our backyard. So this is like the street view. It's like a speakeasy. It's just kind of a sketchy little building.
I think the neighborhood's changing a lot.
Yeah.
It's because we're so close to downtown. I think people have finally figured it out. And so there's a Whole Foods moving in down the street, and I feel like that's
Everything's changed. Like it just, everything is changing. But you couldn't tell that what magic was happening behind the board until you came through the gate there. And this is where we worked. We were essentially in the garage. Like we were on the other side of that garage. Which brings us to today. It's the current Crossroads of Austin. So This is Austin when we moved here at the top, and that's the bottom is what it's kind of like today. That doesn't even show the Google building, which is the tallest building, and it's like a Jenga building. It has changed a lot. So, and we have a saying, I already mentioned this to you, like it's never as good in Austin as when you first got there, and that is kind of true. I mean, it's this really special place to us, but it's still a special place. So in the past 10 years, like there used to be a lot of artists in East Austin. They've kind of all moved out because the affordability is an issue that's created a new problem. And you know, our rent has almost tripled in the years that we've been there, and the design culture has changed. Everything is about design thinking and human-centered design, or as I call it, you know, designing with sticky notes. So it looks different, it feels different, but you know, we're still like happy to do what we're doing. It's just driving across town used to be 10 minutes, and now it's like 20, 25, and if it's South by Southwest, it takes an hour. So, just last month.
Last month we moved into a new studio, new gallery. It's 6 blocks from where we live, so it's
No traffic.
a great situation for us. It's in a 100-year-old house, and that's considered old for Austin. It's got a little tree house overlook. It's on a creek. It's right off of campus, so we're excited. And, you know, we've only been there for a month, so we're not really sure what the future holds for us. But I think we'll keep on doing what we're doing for sure. And so this is the
Once again, it's a blank canvas. So this is from the back of the house, and it's you know, we love it. We just feel like things are just kind of starting fresh. It's our new Crossroads, and we can't wait to see what comes out next. But it allows us to do everything that we're doing now. It's just
6 blocks from the house.
Yeah. I mean, we're like so. If you come to Austin, we certainly hope to see you. Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
Take some questions.
Absolutely.
Of course, we're a little bit over, but absolutely.
Any questions?
So we know Darden, that was the thing.
Oh, I was like, what do they know back there? He also did a show in our space.
Yeah, that's right.
What was it? The Kick-Ass Book Party.
He had that book come out and get the
Yeah,
drawings.
which is really sweet. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a special one. We have one of his paintings too, or one of his drawings.
It's like a lithography.
Lithography, yeah. Yeah, a big part of what we do is we get a lot of art from the people who do shows in our space. It's kind of fun. Yes.
Do you still have those concert posters you took off the street?
I do have a lot of them for sure. I have like a bunch of old Kaziks and a bunch of old Jim Franklins and Armadillo stuff. They're harder to find, but man, yeah, I'm definitely sitting on a flat file.
I just bought 2 off eBay. Smashing Pumpkins concert
From
in
Kazik?
California. No, the artist was Taz, and he, I think he did some work for like, I don't know, rock and I don't know, maybe the early mid 90s.
Yeah, there was a sweet spot.
Yeah.
They're very valuable. I enjoy it. And I also love those old punk Xerox posters.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
So Sean's a collector. We have our new space has like a loft area and it's maybe the size of this stage here. And it is filled with frame posters. Like all of the stuff just went straight up to there until we moved in, and that was kind of, yeah. So yeah, he's quite the collector, and I'm like, no more framed art.
I'm curious, it's not just the two of you, right? You have other designers, or is it?
No,
It's just
well,
the two of us.
we have a short list of resources like developers and writers and
Designers. We have a lot of
Designers.
freelancers. We did have for about 3 years. We had a staff of designers, and it kind of tied us down to taking work that we didn't always want to take.
Oh, I see.
And so now, because we're all across the board, it makes it really hard for us to stay focused and have like a designer who really wants to just be doing developer, web design or
Right.
something like that, and be like, I don't want to always take all those jobs. So now we work with freelancers, and it's been working out pretty well for us. And we also have like an intern.
Yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sure.
My wife and I have a small design business south of Portland here, and
Yeah.
but I can, we get in the same situation. She's actually a writer, and I'm a graphic designer, so we don't really butt heads from a
But there's crossover.
There is crossover, because I also do writing and she does illustration type things, but, yeah, I was just curious because your work's amazing and it
Oh,
just
thank
was
you. Yeah.
really fun to see.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks for
A
coming
lot
on.
of fun.
I'm curious, how do you work together? Do you?
Yeah, we didn't cover that, did we?
No, I mean, do you work on the same clients, or do you?
It depends what's kind of on fire that
Yeah.
way.
Really?
I'm very,
Kinda.
yeah, exactly, right? I'm very personality driven, so I'm constantly like checking how, like, well, you might be, like, for all the home slice stuff, I'm like, you're a good fit for that one. Like, those are projects that he works really well with the client. And then I tend to do more of, some other relationship stuff with them. So it really depends on the project and what the needs are, but we definitely tend to split things up. It's not all, sometimes we work together on projects, but a lot of
It
times
depends
it's
on
like-
what kind of is burning down at
Yeah.
the time. We usually have our own kind of tasks that we need to get accomplished, but we are fully confident in each other's abilities to kind of help out when we need to.
Yeah, when we need them, we're there. But I'm also more of a heads down. I can't see what's in front of me because I'm just like working what's on me, what's breaking right on, what's on fire right now. And Sean's usually able to see beyond and making bigger picture decisions. Like none of this would have happened if I was running the show. None of it, because I'd be like, wait, what are we doing now? Why are we doing this gallery thing? But he's had the vision, and it's been a lot of fun.
And, I'm sorry, are most of your clients are in Austin? Are they-
Yeah, most of them are in Austin. Yeah. So yeah, we're very regional. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the beyond being a design firm, the idea that you're creating community, that you've got,
That's a
everybody-
big part.
Well, I
Yeah.
know, it's very unique, actually.
Mhm.
It's a great way
We
to
do it a lot of nonprofit too, I mean.
We do, probably more than we should. No.
We have a couple long-term relationships with like the Bat Cave. It's probably going on for 10 years.
Mhm.
Is that the only nonprofit?
I know we're
Well,
doing
we
that
have
in
Ironheart
iHeart
Texas.
Justice.
That's every other year.
Mhm.
Um,
And then there's whatever neighborhoody stuff. But yes, community is a big part of us. It's also because we're not like people who really enjoy to brag or talk about ourselves, and we really cherish the relationships within our community. We're both very involved. Sean's like one of the founding members of our AIG, and I'm now involved in the board. I'm the vice president, and so. But it's really about like celebrating our community. That's a big part of it. Now we're about to move into a whole storytelling event with designers, because I think designers are great storytellers, so. And that allows us to reach out to some of our older design members and some of our younger ones.
So does your new gallery space have room for good concerts?
It does. I think they said, do you guys know who Shiny Ribs are? That's like a big local one, and they said that Shiny Ribs play there. But it's a smaller space. Like the room doesn't have that big garage door that opens right into the yard. But basically the floor plan, the original house, it's a 100-year-old house. And the photographer who owns it, who moved away, he basically tore down the entire, all the walls, and then put in beams and rafters. And so like the original footprint of the house is this big open room. So we can do whatever we want. We've already done some off-site workshops there, photography shoot was there. So I think we'll probably focus less on the big events and maybe more small, but yes, we do have the great backyard for everything that we want to do, and we're next to campus. It's great. So.
Wendy, you said you fought hard to get into Pentagram.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did that look like?
Well, so I left another job, and it was not good circumstances in which I left, and I had a list of agencies that I wanted to work for. I picked 3. And Sean was really good about that time. He just said, you know what? Coming from this really, really bad experience, he was like, take 6 weeks off and really just focus on what you want. And so I did, and it was at that time I picked these 3 firms that I wanted to work for, and I really researched. And this was again back when, before digital portfolios, I had a I had a portfolio from, y'all know Liberty Tools? I picked this wooden frame box, like it was an old toolkit, and I built, I spent the whole 6 weeks just really working on my portfolio. And my work at the time was not killer, but the presentation really made an impression on the partner. And I also had the right color car, which is apparently a deal. You had to, for Lowell, he would only hire you if you had a white, black, silver, or red car, and I didn't know that. And I showed up in a green car, but I happened to see another car on the lot that was just like mine. I had no idea. I was like, whose car is that? Because I have the same car, and it was great. But also, more importantly, I think it was that I really spent the time on my portfolio, and I knew everything about the people before I walked in. So I was able to have a really good conversation with them, and I think that made an impression. So that's how that worked.
Sean, I loved your Gorilla Mac, Take Back Mac. Is there a brand today that you would put up?
I think that was a very unique situation. I mean, Apple was at $10. Now it's biggest
Oh my
company on the
gosh.
planet. It's ridiculous. I mean, I should have kept my stock. Seriously.
That was a pain point, yeah.
It was just a lot of fun. I was just like a dumb kid out of college, and I was just like, let's do this. And it just hit a nerve, and people freaked out. It was amazing to see. It was a lot of fun. And I don't know if there's a company that would hold the same kind of water anymore.
It was a unique situation.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you.